What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to celebrate PS5's 1-year anniversary with a little top 4 list for you. No, a weird number for sure, but I actually couldn't make it top 5. So I want to go over the top 4 best PS5 exclusive games. Now, a couple little things before we jump into the list, right? Some specifics. I did not include, obviously, any game that was also on PS4. So it was on PS4 and PS5, like Spider-Man Miles Morales. That game does not count. I also didn't include any director's cuts or games that were relatively the same, but just with a couple additions. So like Ghost of Tsushima's director's cut, Death Stranding, even Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, I did not count on this list. I love Final Fantasy VII, by the way, and I love the rest of them, but those games do not count. It has to only be on PS5 and nowhere else. So with that being said, let's jump in. Number 4, Demon's Souls. I only put this here because I suck at it. And I guess when I say that I'm bad at games, or when I say I'm bad at like this specific game, I try my darnest to not make it actually, affect, I guess, my opinion or what I say about them. Because that, me being terrible at them, that is not the game's fault. That's my fault. And that has nothing to do with how good the game is. No, Demon's Souls is probably one of the better remakes we've ever gotten. I do think it was kind of almost an underrated remake, and one that's kind of been almost swept under the rug. And maybe that's wrong, but that's kind of just the sense I get. And probably because, it comes out with the batch of games when the PS5 released, and then, it's been a full year, and it's for a specific group of people. And like I said, a lot of people are terrible at these games, and some people are good at them. And so I just feel like maybe because of that, a game like this maybe does get kind of swept under the rug. But with that being said, this still probably is one of the top 2 or 3 games on PS5 that shows just like what it can do. Ground up PS5, what can a game look like? The difference between Demon's Souls PS3 versus Demon's Souls PS5 is, it's not even fair. It solidifies Bluepoint again, now that they needed this, as probably the best remake studio, I personally think, in the entire world. So, perfect from start to finish. It's a thing where I can't talk about the game too much itself because I'm bad at it, and everybody knows what Demon's Souls is. But just in terms of being a remake, being just so visually beautiful, when you die and you come back literally immediately, like those are just obviously the biggest selling points. But what a great remake, and I did buy this game day one. It's another example of me supporting these games, even though I play them for maybe a week or two and I never play them again because I just can't. That's what happened with this game. Number 3, this maybe comes as a shock to people, Astro's Playroom. For the love of God, if you have a PS5 and you haven't played this game, that's a sin. You probably need to ask for forgiveness for that. But no, in reality, this game is phenomenal, and every time I think back to this game, I just have a smile on my face, and that's really what this game did when it came out. Playing through it, well, number 1, again, visually beautiful, loading, amazing. In terms of the heart and love and care to, I guess, the brand of Astro, but also just like PlayStation. Like, for the love of God, they love PlayStation, which is good. And just going through and seeing all of the Easter eggs or all of the connections to, Sony's big party, their bigger games. And also, by the way, not just their bigger games, but also smaller games as well. These guys know, what's come before them. It's just so good. And beyond all of that, so really, again, I'd say visually, performance-wise, all of this stuff, even like level design and just being like a fun, action-y platformer, being able to do different things in the game, it's like top tier. I think a lot of people kind of forget just how good the game actually is just in and of itself, like playing it. But then what it did for the DualSense. So if you haven't heard me talk about this enough, I talked about this on the main channel a ton. The DualSense, in my opinion, is the best controller ever made. And not just in this generation, but any generation. It is the most next-gen thing about next-gen, about the Series X or S, about PS5. The DualSense is that thing. You can actually tell because Microsoft wants to copy it for themselves, and that's how you know that it's good, okay? It's phenomenal, and it actually hurts me whenever games come out and I play them on PlayStation 5 and they don't utilize it. Now, will every game utilize it as much as Astro? No, that's kind of a rare example. But what it did for the DualSense, you cannot beat it. I suggest, if you haven't already, and when you do, because remember, and by the way, free game. It literally comes pre-installed on your PS5. So that's kind of incredible. So you get the PS5, all of you people that are waiting to get it or trying to get it for the past year and you failed, and that's okay. I mean, it's actually not a failure. It's scalpers. But when you do get it, play this game immediately, and then you'll know that every other game is not as good in terms of the DualSense usage. But it's one of the VR kind of examples of you can describe it to people, you can say how incredible it is, but you don't really know until you pick it up. That's I know maybe that sounds cliche or dumb, but it's absolutely not. Like, that's literally how it is. You don't actually know how good it is until you put it in your hand. And then again, the rest of the game is just phenomenal around it. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 2 is Returnal. Now, this is a game that I still haven't beaten. I still haven't gone back to in an extraordinarily long time. But every time I think of this game, much like Astro's Playroom, I don't necessarily smile, but I think of wow, what a good game. Every single time I think about Returnal, or I see Returnal, or somebody mentions it for like Game of the Year or something, I think I really did love that game when I played it. I think me just stopping playing it was kind of just circumstance. It came out in a very busy, I think Resident Evil came out like a week or two after. There was a lot, and then Mass Effect Legendary Edition was also in May. There was just, in life, there's things that pulled me, I guess, away from it. But every time I think about this game, I think about how incredible it is. I'm a huge Housemarque guy. Resogun, Nex Machina. Nex Machina is I would say Nex Machina is still my favorite Housemarque game, which beats Resogun, which beats Returnal, Super Stardust, all of those. I guess Dead Nation. Dead Nation is probably the weakest of that group, but I really like Returnal a lot. And every time I think back to it, I think visually, you got to go through these check marks, right? Visually, come on. Loading. This was the game that proved, okay, this is what the SSD in the PS5 can do, right? You die, there's no waiting. I mean, you get the small little cutscene, and then you're immediately back. It's incredible. And really, the game, I don't think, would have worked without that. If you had to wait, even say 5, 10, 15 seconds, right? And maybe 15 is too long, but even the other ones, if you had to wait for that amount of time, which is what we were kind of used to doing on PS4, PS3, you'd have to wait even longer, right? This game proved you need. I think a game like this actually would succeed more if you die and you immediately, there's no time to think, you're back in it. You're back and you can keep going. Obviously, you have to restart, but you're back in it. And that works so well for what this game does. But on top of that, this game is eerie. I love the environments. I love the enemies. I love the story that kind of is behind the scenes playing out. The story I would not say is the most, the major thing in this game. It's the gameplay. It's the gameplay and it's the loop. And that's the final thing, right? The gameplay in Returnal is incredible. It's so good. It also does really well with the DualSense. I don't think it does it. Obviously, none of them do it as good as Astro, but this one definitely does it well. And the gameplay is just so rock solid tight. And as I said, I talked about this game when it came out. It was my game of the year when it released, and then other games kind of dethroned it. But it's the best of Resogun and Nex Machina. It feels so good, and it's exactly what you would imagine those games being if they were a third-person kind of shooter. And they actually act quite a lot like them. So I'm very much impressed by this game. And the more I think about it, and it always has been a game and still is a game where it's I do want to jump back in. I'm waiting for the right time. I feel like over that Christmas, right, December, January, not too many games that release in that time, so maybe that would be a good time to go back. But I have nothing but fond memories of this game. Even though it's hard, very, very difficult, I love it. I love it so much. Number 1, Ratchet Clank. When this game came out, this was my game of the year. I think that's also been beaten. It's not my game of the year right now, but this is a phenomenal game. Does everything I had already said. Visually, it's really good. It's about as Pixar, which I know we thought Knack was like that, but this one dethrones it if Knack wasn't dethroned already. No, this game visually is that Pixar kind of movie, but besides that, in terms of a video game just being fun, this is what I talked about when that game came out. I did a review, made some videos on it. In terms of a game just being fun, it's got the story, it's got the gameplay, and I guess the gameplay does factor in. It's just fun nonstop. The mechanics are so good. The different weapons, the different enemies, the different environments, using, the rifts to get, from and just changing kind of where you are at any given time. And then it's just, I want to say, and it's just fun. The story is enjoyable. There's some, heartwarming things. There's some funniness. It's got everything I think a game can have. I don't think it's the most serious, and I don't think it's got the most heart-wrenching, moments in any game ever. But in terms of just sitting down and, like I said, just having a smile on my face. I did that for Astro's Playroom. Every single second I was playing the game, I was smiling. I was saying, "Oh my God!" you could feel the ice. You can feel when he's skating. It's you just feel like you're in it the entire time. I felt the same thing with Ratchet & Clank. Every single second I was in the game, I was just part of it. I was enjoying it, and I think it just does, in terms of these PS5 games, I think it does everything the best blend. You know what I mean? The best blend. It's not my game of the year. That game goes to actually a game that's not just on PlayStation, but it's definitely, I would say, in my top 3 or 4, and I think it really is probably an easy one. I'd argue an easy one for the best PS5 game that's released so far. Again, PS5 only. Ghost of Tsushima is obviously phenomenal. Final Fantasy VII was my game of the year last year. It's one of my favorite games ever, so I love it. I love it so much. But again, I didn't really want to count it just because of what it is. So hopefully we'll get some to dethrone Ratchet & Clank next year, although I don't know, because Horizon and God of War are not PS5 exclusives. They're PS4 and PS5, so I will not count them. So we'll have to see if any games can come out that's only on PS5 that can beat Ratchet & Clank. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, so you know when all these videos go up. I do a brand new video every single day on the channel, and so I hope to see you guys for tomorrow's video.